Lord forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack make it backflip. Telly Hank did with the action. With the vital speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby May. Just caught a touchdown from the bay.
Atlanta police are asking for the public's help in locating a missing person.
But Lee and then Turner on the left. Zachary the fullback. Here's Turner on the end and round on the wing. He has a first down and more. 45-50, 45-40, and knocked out of bounds at around the 40-yard line, Jerry. And that's what we're talking about. Turner got outside, and he picked up about 32 yards.
0-3 coming in. They start from their own 40. And they give to Nick Turner, sophomore out of Atlanta. He takes it for a couple off tackle. The Mississippi State offensive lineup. A group that has averaged better than 32 points per game. Justin Jenkins, number 8 there, got 101 catches for 1,491 yards, 13 touchdowns in his career. He is the go-to guy for this Mississippi State offense. Leads the SEC, averaging 8 catches, 132 yards per game, 7th in the country. Shotgun after a gain of 3. And again on the right side is Turner, and Nick Turner across midfield with a first down.
Yo, we back. It's your boy Popalot. Mobb. We on our way to Georgia with it. Y'all know we headed to the finesse capital of the world. Atlanta. Y'all meet us in the city. Now, y'all do y'all best not to get took off, scammed, robbed, shot, all that shit. Now, if you ever been to the city of Atlanta, if you know, you know. Now, the story I'm about to get into now describes all too well what I'm talking about. A lot of times I do stories about Atlanta and I mention it being the finesse capital of the world. And I get a lot of people in the comment box talking about, oh, what about LA? What about New York? What about Chicago? Yes, I agree that there's a high number of scammers and finessers in those cities. But it is my belief that the best and the most elite scammers from those cities go to Atlanta. Because that's the headquarters. The fuck? Now, today, I'm going to be bringing you the story of a standout football athlete that made several decisions in his life that would ultimately lead him down a path of destruction. Now, the young man I'm talking about is going to be a guy by the name of Nick Turner. Now, before I get started, anybody from the city of Atlanta or that's familiar with Nick Turner or this case, definitely we need y'all in the comment box. But for those of you guys not familiar, Nick Turner was a standout running back for Booker T. Washington High School. He was actually named a Parade All-American, which is probably one of the highest prestiges that you can get. And based on my research, I saw where he was coming out of school in 2002, he would go on to commit to Mississippi State, where he would be ranked 12th amongst running backs behind guys like Jarius Norwood and Maurice Claret, if you could believe that. Now, doing my research on his stats, looks like when he first arrived at Mississippi State in 2002, it doesn't look like he got much time on the field, where he only had 8 carries for 31 yards. But it really wouldn't be long before he would make an impact for the team, because the very next year in 2003, he would go on to lead them in rushing, where he had 123 attempts for 696 yards. And that went for an average of 5.7 yards per carry. He also scored 7 touchdowns. So anybody familiar with football or averages, that would essentially tell him that he was on his way to what would look like a productive career for the Bulldogs. But like a lot of youth from the inner city, trouble just happened to follow him. And it didn't help that his coach was probably one of the most stern coaches, who was a guy by the name of Sylvester Croom. And just to test my sports knowledge, he was, if I'm not mistaken, the first black coach in the SEC, which is a huge deal because the SEC is like really the NFL junior. So to be a coach in that league is a big deal. And in 2005, Nick Turner would be dismissed from the team before spring drills even kicked off after he failed to attend class, along with other violations, which would lead Sylvester Croom to say about Nick Turner, he has not met the expectation level we have for a Mississippi State football playing student athlete. Now, some media reports online also say that he might have been kicked out because he was arrested for passing counterfeit bills in a nightclub as well. But when you was as talented as Nick Turner was, and when I say talented, y'all really just don't understand. So in his senior year, he would go on to rush for 1,700 yards, and he missed 4 games. He would start from his first day on the field at Booker T. Washington, and he would go on to amass 11,000 all-purpose yards before his career was done. So, of course, he's going to have other opportunities. And I seen in 2005 where he would take his talent to Murray State. I couldn't see where he got on the field, so I would presume this to be the end of his football career. So by all accounts, by that time, it looked like it was back to the city of Atlanta for Nick Turner. And it wouldn't be 3 years, I saw, from when he was back home to where on March 8th, 2008, he would end up being charged with the murder of a guy by the name of Damon Brodus and what police would call a drug deal gone bad. They didn't really release many details as far as that was concerned, but just researching the case, I'm not sure if it was a situation where he beat it, the charges were dropped, or he even served any time for that charge. But by all accounts, Nick Turner seemed like he was in the game. Now, I'm sure at this time, Nick Turner had to be reflecting at the opportunity that he had, that he probably messed up. And to be honest, the next 5 years from when he left the Murray State football team, it was very, very tragic because not only was he charged with that murder that we just spoke of, on September 1st, 2010, a guy by the name of Marcus Garner, who was the author for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, would go on to write, Nick Turner was an electrifying football player and a respectable young man. However, Turner's penchant for making bad choices has been blamed for his disappearance by the people closest to him, leading them to fear the worst. In an article titled Football Standout Missing, Worse is Feared, they would explain how Nick Turner would go missing one late Saturday night in September of 2010. It would be a week later on September 8th when the same media outlet, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, would publish an article written by Rhonda Cook titled Football Star Was Shopping for Pot When He Was Shot. Now, in that article, they would say former football star Nick Turner and a friend of his made a fatal mistake when they went to a hard-to-find parking lot in Southwest Atlanta to buy weed from people neither of the two knew. Now, Lieutenant Paul Garucci, who was commander of the Atlanta Police Homicide Unit at the time, would go on to say that we have not located the victim, so this case is being worked as a missing person, going on to say that being that the police department didn't have a body, they could not work this case as a homicide, but none of his family members had heard from him. Now, it would be days later when more details would emerge about Nick Turner's disappearance, and a friend of his would describe that they went to a hard-to-find parking lot in Southwest Atlanta to buy weed from a man from New Orleans known only as Cutter. Now, police would go on to say that It was between 8 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. when Nick Turner and that friend got to the side of the rear of the warehouse on Murphy Avenue that houses storage spaces, a tire store, and an artist studio. They would go on to say that the unidentified friend that was with Turner stated that Nick Turner approached somebody who was supposedly selling the weed, shots were fired, and Nick Turner was hit multiple times. Now, this is a really, really weird case because they're going to say that police were alerted when one of Turner's relatives flagged down a cruiser and they have found the AK-47 and some spent shells from a handgun. Now, crime scene technicians would recover a small drop of blood, but search dogs would not be able to pick up the scent from Nick Turner. Police helicopters equipped to spot heat from body found nothing as well. Now, Nick Turner's mother would go on to say that her son's connection to drug dealing is probably the reason he disappeared. And she would go on to say that she found a list of goals in a wallet that was given to her by one of his friends. And on that list was he wanted to do things right. And that was reported on October 29th of 2010. And based on my research, there still is no signs of Nick Turner. So anybody in the game, please know what y'all doing. And I'm going to say this again. Mob ties is education and not glorification. A lot of people would say, oh, we're glorifying crime and we're doing this and that. That's going to be a big negative. I'm solely doing this for my guys in the game. Either it's going to teach you a lesson or you're going to take it to the max. Whatever you're going to do with it. But we not in the business of knocking hustles over here. But y'all know what it is with me. Y'all make sure y'all follow me on Instagram, on Twitter, POP_A_LOT. Now, anytime I do these sports episodes, I try to ask, is this one of the worst downfalls or tragedies in sports history? And I always get people flooding the comment box. We talk about Victor Page. We talk about Maurice Clarett. We talk about Mike Tyson. We talk about Michael Vick. It's just so many people that we can name. If y'all have anybody that I didn't mention or y'all think, y'all get in the comment box. Y'all make sure y'all hit that red subscribe button right under this video so y'all know when this real trill spill shit is dropping. And definitely get in the comment box. Let me know what stories we need to cover, what gangsters we miss, what hoods we haven't been to, all of that. And y'all already know how y'all can get at me. Y'all tweet me, tag me, text me, mention me, email me, CC me, stop me in the streets, however y'all want to handle it. It's your boy Pop, Mobb.